point guard, will be located at this cone. The number 2, which is the 2 guard, will be located at this cone. Small forward, which is the number 3. Number 4, which will be the power forward, and your cone in the center represents the center. So if the point guard goes out on a man who has the ball on the wing, the shooting guard would also come over. And this is so if there happens to be an attack of offense on that left side of the floor, which is where the offense will be. So as you catch, you assess, boom, boom, layup. You come off the curl. Hi. Allow me to break down the reason why getting your basketball training from seasoned players is tremendously helpful in developing talent. Each day missed while another good player has the right tools and drills to get better can be devastating down the road when you match up with great talent. The hours you spend training are priceless, and you don't get a chance to go back and correct poor training habits of past days. This is just a fresh start.
Early like it's morning.
The focus is the best start.
I put on the same face.
Africa is beautiful.
I just gotta be sure.
With my HD palette too.
Let them know what's inside.
Prep game on and pop.
Early like it's morning.
Neutral place, not an
Don't
option.
tell me I am out of
Take
place.
a knee like my man Cap.
I just gotta be sure.
Like Colin
This is how I
and
hide.
Nike. There are many great skill development systems out there to increase things like ball handling control and good shooting form. However, what gets left unchallenged on those platforms is the know-how and instinct it takes to use those skills effectively in game situations. Get ready for the next episode of The Breakdown with Coach Jim, teaching players what success in the game really looks like.
Breakdown, the breakdown, the breakdown, 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 breakdown.
Thank you all for joining. My name is Coach Jim, and this is The Breakdown. Today, what we're going to go into is some information about a 2-3 zone, the understanding behind that zone, and some good ways to attack the 2-3 zone. Later on, as we continue, we're going to come back and we're going to work on different zones, such as a 1-3-1, a boxing 1. And just kind of look at the different dynamic of how they're laid out on the floor, which areas are easy to cover from a defense standpoint, which areas are difficult to cover from a defensive standpoint, and what areas are easier to attack. So right now what we have laid out is 5 cones. We have 5 tall cones, and we've got 2 short circle cones each side of the floor here. What the cones represent are the players that would idealistically be on the floor at one given time. Now, I want to express the concept of why coaches go to this particular zone. Normally, if you go by position, you'll start with the number 1, which is the point guard, will be located at this cone. The number 2, which is the 2 guard, will be located at this cone. In the back corner, you may have a small forward, which is the number 3. And this cone here represents the number 4, which will be the power forward. And your cone in the center represents the center, which is normally the biggest player on the floor or the player on the opposing team that plays that position the best. And idealistically, the concept behind the zone is that each player covers a certain zone of the floor. So right here at my number 1, right here the point guard is designated to this zone on the right side of the floor, and anytime an offensive player catches the ball in this area, the point guard is to cover that particular player with the ball. He covers the left side of the floor on the wings. Down on the block, your small forward will cover anything that goes out to the three-point line in the corners, all the way to here on the block. The power forward will be the opposing side to the small forward, and he'll do the same thing in his corner. And then you have your center that basically covers the whole painted area. Now, what the zones are designed to do with most coaches, because every coach will make different changes to his zone. He may have his players playing in the 2-3, and there will be certain adjustments depending on the team that you're playing against, or whatever the coach feels more comfortable with doing with his zone. And I always like to talk about the weaker areas to cover in a 2-3 zone, because normally coaches call this zone if he feels as though the opposing team does not shoot the three-pointer well. And as you look at where the players are positioned, they are all covering mostly the painted area to anything inside the three-point line very well. It's good coverage inside the three-point line. And what happens is when the ball rotates around the three-point line, each player on the outside, which here you have the point guard and the power forward, they'll extend out to cover the three-point line when the ball is on their side. On the point guard and the small forward side, they'll go out and cover the three-point line on that side. So it's important that as an offensive team, if you're attacking a 2-3 zone, that the three-point line should get good shots in that area if the rotation is well. Better defenses yield better coverages. So that means these guys on the sides here outside of the paint rotate to the three-point line very well. And if I haven't said this, normally your zones are designed to move together. So what that means is if the ball were to go out on the wing on the left side of the floor, even though you have your point guard who actually goes out to that particular part of the floor, each player will move closer to that side, because the idea is coverage where the ball is the most important. So if there are offensive players that are on the opposite side of the ball, there's nothing that they can do with the ball. So you want all your defense to shift. So if the point guard goes out on a man who has the ball on the wing, the shooting guard would also come over slightly in the zone. Your center will move slightly over. Your small forward will move slightly over. And your power forward will move slightly over. And this is so if there happens to be an attack of offense on that left side of the floor, which is where the offense will be, that they have enough coverage that if one guy is beat by the offensive player, you have multiple guys in here to make sure they don't get a good shot or not get a good shot at all. So what I want to walk through is a couple routes that could be ran by this offensive team against this particular zone. And what they're going to start with is I want to deal with some interior dribble moves as you get into the teeth of this zone. And I haven't talked about plays that coaches could run, because if you didn't know, no matter what age you are, coaches run plays, and those plays are designed to attack certain defenses. And a play is nothing more than the offensive team with their 5 players running different routes or running different pathways, intertwining with the zone, setting what we call picks and screens off of each other to get players open for open shots. So if I started down here at the baseline and part of my coach's play ran me up the baseline underneath the rim, and I took a pick from screen from my teammate, and I'm moving up closer in this region. The areas that have the most open space when you're looking at the zone is this point here, which is halfway between these two guys, the point guard and the shooting guard and the small forward here. Right directly in between here, which is halfway between the point guard and the shooting guard. And halfway in between here, between the shooting guard and the power forward. So, my opinion is catching the ball in these two areas is a pretty good sweet spot. However, ball handling and control is very important, getting in the depths of a 2-3 zone. Once you step in here, you're in a danger zone because as you're in the middle, you have coverage from all angles. You're basically surrounded. And so normally the only good options is once these guys collapse down on you as an offensive player is kickouts to three-pointers. So you catch in, take a dribble, they sandwich you, you either go up for a quick shot. If you can, put a decent on-the-floor move with just a couple dribbles, because the more you dribble in here with this good coverage, you're in the red zone. So kickouts to three-pointers, and then good passes, because most of these guys are going to be taught to put their hands in the passing lane. So even if you get inside here and you're trying to make a kick out, these passes get picked off probably, in my opinion, the most in a game if there's a 2-3 zone. Once you have gotten into the teeth of the defense and you make a pass outside, because you got your defender here that's jumping with his hands up in the air, are reaching down low to those bounce passes that you can make. And theoretically, your point guard and your shooting guard are going to be the best at getting their hands out on those passes. Your big players can do it as well, but in my opinion, their hands aren't as active and they don't move as quickly as your point guard and your shooting guard. Starting down on the baseline first. We're going to do that one at the top. But if you curl around and you take your pick off your man and you catch it in this region here, one of the moves that I have been coaching is a one dribble between the leg, attacking this center, and then the next dribble straight to the basket. Now, idealistically, it looks like that will work out well, looking at the spacing, but you must know when you come up off of your pick, off your man here, that all the defenders on the inside recognize that the ball is probably either going to be passed here or has been passed there, and the attention is all on you. So what happens is when you curl off of your screen and you come in this area and you catch a pass, you've got a split second to go ahead and activate this dribble move. And I like this dribble move because from what I've seen of basketball, watching it for years, a lot of your big guys, now in today's time is a little bit different, but a lot of your big guys back in my era when I was growing up, they weren't as agile to move left and right to stay with a ball handler, a player who could handle the ball pretty well. So coming in off of this screen and going into this attack directly at a big player, oftentimes will kind of put them at a standstill because they felt charged at, and their mind kind of goes to guarding a point guard and the point guard being able to rush past.
Here we are taking a brief moment to inform you of what's in store for athletes who want to excel using video material produced by King of Bounce. At the end of this video broadcast, you'll see a link entitled kingofbounce.net. It is on our website that you'll have the option to pay as little as $2 per training video to learn drills and develop your complete potential. Don't let another day pass of valuable time that can be spent getting the edge that only a few instructors have the ability to teach. Through using the instructions of these videos, you will gain the right timing, execution, and instincts to excel beyond your own imagination. And now resume watching the breakdown with Coach Jim, explaining the specifics and how to score on a 2-3 zone defense.
Guarding a point guard and the point guard being able to rush past him. So today's game, our big guys are a little bit more understanding about whether you can attack them and go by or not. So we have to be careful for that. But still, idealistically, if you're going at a big guy and you come in this area and you catch the ball and you take this hard dribble with your left foot leading out towards him, oftentimes you get a big fella who just stands there, or maybe he approaches you, which, in my opinion, this is the best time to go here to here and end up with a layup. Now, it has to be done quickly as you come around and catch, because as you're catching the ball, chances are he's going to start edging because you're already in a zone that you can get an easy shot even from here, which is what they do not want. So when you take that first dribble, you have to see how much space do I have? Has he come so far across that when I take this dribble, we're gonna run into each other? And if he has, you can immediately just go by. Now, once you go by in that situation, you wanna go straight up, or if you feel like he's coming at you too hard, you can go underneath for this reverse layup, okay? But once again, when you come around the route here, I'm gonna do the move a couple times. So as you catch, you assess, boom, boom, layup. Catch, boom, boom, layup. Now, the other part of this is you might get a drop down of the big guy. If he feels like, looking at your energy as you come into the paint, that he wants to step down and prevent you from getting to the basket, at this point I like a one-handed floater off one leg that you would have to perfect. It's not a coach's dream for you to be shooting one-handed floaters off of one leg. But to those players who take the time to work on this shot, being that you're close to the basket, when you go between your legs here and that center drops down to prevent you from getting to the basket, you immediately go up and shoot this one-legged floater like this. So you're curling around, one-handed floater over his hand. Now, if you go into this quick enough off of this curl, even if he's a big guy and he jumps, you can get that ball over his outstretched hands. One of the other moves that I like, it's a 2-dribble move where you go between your legs here. When you come out of there, you go with that left hand. So you start with the right and between the legs, you end up with the right foot leading and the left hand dribble, and you kick off of that dribble and step back here for this jump shot. And it looks like this. You come off the curl, and then you go into your shot. Throw your pass out, go catch it, and inside. If you want to do the step back, same thing. And then you go into your shot. As you can see, I have a circular cone on the opposing side. So that means now I want to start down here on the right block. Come up, that defender comes up with you, take your jump shot. Switch sides, come up the same way. And here's the difficult issue about being able to do the same move left and right hand. One of the things that I work very hard on, there is a understanding about being ambidextrous. I personally think anybody can be ambidextrous if they want to work on their opposite hand enough. I think very few people, if they put in the work, can't develop whichever hand is not your strong hand. It's just my opinion. As I was saying, when you come from, which was the left side of the floor, back to the right, now you're leading with the opposite foot. And you're leading with the left, pop, but then you want to come back between your legs. So once again, if this player here cheats up, after you come off the pick, they make it through, you come and you take that dribble between your legs here and you get them to open up there, you come right back here and end up with a wide open shot. So this is what that looks like. You're looking at the cones as there's defenders coming up, you catch your pass and you step right beside them and back out and go into your jump shot. Now, those shots, every one that I've demonstrated so far, they're shots that you want to work on. You want to get around the house, and outside of the drills that you can do, being able to handle the ball, you need to work on being able to get these shots off in the paint on a 2-3 zone. And so what happens is, as I continue to go along and show you where the weak spots of all the different zones that you can see, because oftentimes if coaches have players that are not as strong as others defending, they tend to want to use zones, because zones become a collective coverage of all players basically protecting the basket and trying to cover any shot that is taken from anywhere on the floor. That's what a zone is designed to do. And so I'm showing you the 2-3 today. The other thing that you'll see, and I won't move the cones to set it up now, is you'll sometimes see a 3-2 instead of a 2-3, which means you got 3 guys up here on the top and 2 on the bottom. And I can tell you now, the reason for that, oftentimes you have shooters on the wings that are catching and shooting and getting in a rhythm, that you want these wing guys, wing defenders, to be able to get out on those guys quickly. So you end up with the guy here in the middle to keep point guards from driving by and getting easy paths to the basket, but then you have help defense on each side. So now these 2 guys are not stretched as thin as they would be in a 2-3 covering the whole top. You got 3 guys covering the whole top. Makes you a little bit weaker down in the paint, but if you got a good power forward and center that are great defenders, this is a defense that coaches can fall in love with as well. Then we have a 1-3-1, where you got a guy up top, guy here in the middle, and this guy here at the bottom, and then the 2 on each side here. 1-3-1. And that defense is really designed to protect the perimeter. Means the other team is getting some good shots on the perimeter. They got some good ball handlers, some good penetrators, and you want to keep pressure on them at all times. So the coverage in the paint is a whole lot less, but these defenders up top can move down with the flow of the ball if the ball is in those areas. The weakest spot, I'll tell you now without moving my cones around, is in the corners on the 1-3-1. Which oftentimes you'll see cross-court passes. If a point guard goes to the left side of the floor, he makes a pass all the way to the right corner. Because these defenders here that are in the 1-3-1 had to shift to his side, making that a very open area. And it's the same thing if he goes to the opposite side. And then the other one that I'm familiar with that most coaches probably still run is what is called a boxing one, where you've got a defender on each corner, basically like we have here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you take the defender out of the middle. Primarily, it won't be a center that's going to play a man-to-man. But this boxing one, the one is a man-to-man, man-to-man defender. So basically what that means is there's an opposing team of the defense that has one guy that seems to be just going off, and the rest of the team, in the coach's opinion, is not nowhere near as a threat. And so he takes his best defender and he puts it on that one guy, man to man, and his other 4 players play the zone. So, but with all of these defenses, good offense will beat great defense. Our good offense will score on great defense. But you got to be good. You got to work on the skill sets, because one of the ways that I like to teach is to tell you as an offensive player, idealistically, if you work on your skills, we all get very impressed with great scores, but it's only one reason to get impressed with great scores if you're dealing with great defense, because truthfully, if you're an offensive player and you got this ball in your hand, your defender has no idea what your plans are, which means you should be able to take advantage of that if you're working on your skills. Great defenders learn habits and they figure out what you're good at, what you're not good at, and they key in on that. But at the end of the day, if you're on defense, you're playing guesswork, no matter how good your defense is. So don't be too highly impressed whenever you're able to do great moves, but do feel good about the work that you had to do if you're able to do those moves on great defense. So you want to work on these routes here that I showed you today. Next week, we'll go into a different zone. We'll break it down, show you some good attacks. At some point, we'll add some more moves in. Besides just this couple dribbles in that we did today. And hope you felt good about what you've seen today. I'm Coach Jim, and this was The Breakdown.
Have you ever worked on a set of drills or learned a new move, but as you attempted it in the game, it didn't work out? The reason for these kind of failures happening is a result of lacking the insight needed to understand the defense and the body language of players while you attack. When the ball goes up, no one can tell you when to start a crossover dribble or what the best distance is to initiate the moves that you learned. What separates King of Bounce from many other training programs is that you get an inside knowledge of how to step into the rhythm of a game so that your accuracy will be at peak performance. The following program has been brought to you by The Kickback. Giving the best video training for your dollar is our focal point at King of Bounce. Here is a little bit about Coach Jim. He is originally from North Carolina. He played his collegiate ball in South Carolina at Clinton College. Standing at 6'5" tall, he was able to play positions 1 through 4 in college and in high school 1 through 5. He was known to be an outstanding defender at each position he played, as well as a great offensive player, and has tremendous patience in teaching his methods. Coach Jim is inspired to pass along his insight in hopes that the hard work he put in during his run will become a gift and benefit to all players who take advantage of his training. We thank you for tuning in this week. Continue looking out for upcoming episodes of The Breakdown. We'll see you next time.
Forever I will hold up my life.